What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Jad of All Trades. We're here with another Division 2 video. We're rolling off the last one I did on the Glassfactor build guide. Y'all have been loving that one, and it's been getting a lot of traction in the comments. I love seeing y'all interact with the video and talk about the ways you want to build or you make your setup, and have some questions around some of the choices we made. So I want to make this video covering some of the decisions in the Glassfactor build, as well as dispel some myths with some other choices that could have been made with skill builds in general, because of course this is a skill build and we're running for a specific reason. Let's get into the game and start doing some testing as well, so you can actually see the impact of the different choices. Alright, so first let's start off with brand picks. Okay, we're running the 4-piece Refactor. We have 2 brands that we get to pick, or potentially a high-end and an exotic. We are going with the 2 pieces of high-end here because we're running the chest and the bag. Now, build setup aside, right, in any case where you're going to have gear set, you're going to be making this sort of decision, we're choosing to run the talents for the chest and bag. So we have, no, we're not going to pick an exotic, and we have decisions to make in terms of what we run here. So I'm running the force multiplier on a 1-piece Hannah. At least we're starting with the 1-piece, right, for the backpack. Now, people were talking about running Wyvern, right? Because if you look at just the force multiplier in isolation, you're getting 10% skill haste because it's Hannah U, but you're getting 30% increase in your skill damage from the talent. It's very important here. The perfect combined arms gives 30%, whereas regular combined arms, which you would throw on a Wyvern backpack, like the one here, okay? So let's take a look at this Wyvern piece, right? 8% skill damage for the 1-piece. So you're saying, hey, I'm getting damage right away from the 1-piece, even though I'm doing less on the talent, 25, right? 25 plus 8 sounds like it's adding up to more than 30. And you'd be right in isolation. If we're choosing just 1 piece, if we had just a backpack, then you would go with a Wyvern, giving you 8% base for the brand, and then the regular combined arms 25, right, is adding up to that 33, as opposed to the 30 that you think you're getting from, haste, which is a wasted stat, and then the perfect version, right, only 30. Now again, it's a couple percentages here and there. Wyvern did get nerfed. It went down to 8%, whereas it used to be 10% on the 1-piece. And that's actually making the difference here in the choices that we're making, because you have to look at the bag and the chest. You can't just look at the backpack, and that's where a lot of people I've been seeing get a little confused when they're making their choices. You have to address the build holistically as well. Because of the way that Division works with stacking gear pieces, right? The chest we're running is a Hannah with glass, and we're getting that 2-piece bonus from running the 2 pieces of Hannah, which is 10% skill damage. So if you were to run this on the backpack, right? You say, oh, my Wyvern with regular combined arms is more damage than my force multiplier. On the backpack alone, again, yes, but what are you going to run on the chest? There's no other chest option that's going to be taking advantage of more damage. This is the chest piece to run, right? Now, you could run a Brazos. I guess it's the same thing with a skill haste. Maybe you run a China. That could be a viable use case if you're running different skills. We're running drone turret. The stats we're looking for are skill damage. That's just our number 1 priority, is skill damage, and then we can start talking about skill haste or something else. But in terms of, if we're trying to be single-minded about it, right, and min-max, we're min-maxing for skill damage. Skill haste is a nice secondary thing to have, and you'll see that as the second roll on my 2 pieces of high-end, as well as on the mods. You can't put skill damage on the mods, of course, so we're running haste instead to make sure that our drone, when it does eventually go down, because it will, we get it back up faster. But there's no other brand, right? If we do another Wyvern piece with glass, right, we're getting 18% status effects, which we're not using. So that's a completely wasted stat. At least haste is useful for our build and how we're doing it. So if you were to run Wyvern on the backpack, you're actually doing less damage, because what are you going to run on the chest? And that chest is the Hannah here, right? So it's better to look at it like this. We already have the Hannah chest locked in. Dead stat, skill haste, skill damage, glass cannon. And then on our backpack, you can go with 8% skill damage. Damage roll, the same. Combined arms, 25%. And then look at how much more damage we're doing now. When I click over here, we're getting perfect combined arms, so that's 5% more than the regular talent. And the brand bonus is 2% more. So it's just straight up more damage running this setup. And that's why we're doing the 2 pieces of Hannah. Now, when it comes down to it, you can continue on the backpack. Again, there's talks around tech support. Now, normally for a skill build, if you're running a Wyvern, let's say it was a situation where we're deciding between 2 pieces of Wyvern on the backpack because we're not running the force multiplier, right? Perfect tech support doesn't increase the peak damage, it increases the duration of the talent. I don't have a piece on me because I don't really use it. It rolls on Alps, which is not really great for skill damage setups, right? So we're deciding between these 2 pieces, right? Increases total skill damage by 25%, increases total skill damage by 25%. These should perform the same. It's just a question of preference. This one's a little more chill. It's a little more laid back. You don't need to peak and constantly proc combined arms, because that only lasts for 3 seconds. You've got to be constantly shooting with combined arms. Whereas this one, you can lay back and you don't need to worry. Now, that being said, you need a skill kill. You need an actual kill for this to proc, but it will last for a long time, for 25 seconds. That's a lot of time for it to refresh, because it will refresh when you do get another kill. For me, I'm combined arms all the way. I don't think I ever run tech support. I'm pretty much always doing combined arms because it's guaranteed uptime. I know that I'm shooting and I'm getting it. I don't need to wait for that ramp up of getting a kill, securing a kill before I get the bonus. Just new stage starts, I'm shooting, you're getting combined arms proccing. You have to shoot anyway with the capacitor to keep your 40 stacks up, right? We can't forget that. And just in general, you should be shooting. You're going to be doing a hell lot more damage by shooting. So that's why I've decided on, and pretty much always do decide on, combined arms instead of tech support. And then going back to the brands, it's not even a question of what we're running, because we're running perfect combined arms, because that's the best in slot with the setup, with the 2 pieces of the brands. Okay? And again, perfect combined arms does more damage, so it's not even a question of running tech support. Tech support isn't even just going to be a preference thing, it's doing less damage. So we're going combined arms through and through. Now, rolling off into the shooting, okay? We were talking about shooting because it's important, and that's how you get more damage, and that's one of the reasons, if not the reason, that we're running glass on the chest. Glass is amplifying all of the damage we deal. Very interestingly, okay, kinetic momentum, this is just a talent on a different piece. We would run it on the Hannah, okay? Basically, when both of your skills are up for 15 seconds, you get to the max stack, which is 30%. It's increasing your total skill damage by 30%. That ends up being more than the 25 that it's amplifying with glass. So if you're talking pure skills, kinetic momentum actually does more damage than glass cannon, which is really interesting, right? Because kinetic momentum doesn't have that downside of taking in 50% amplified damage. That's one of the reasons why I'd never run glass, is because I don't like being that squishy. I always go for tank hybrids, right? Glass cannon is not for me. So kinetic momentum does more skill damage, and you don't have the downside. But, of course, you have a different downside here, right? It has ramp up, and if your skill is going down, it's going to take another 15 seconds once it gets off cooldown to build back up. And given the skills that we're running here, this would be the second best scenario to run kinetic momentum. In my Guardian's Wrath, we have the Hive and the Turtle, which is the best scenario for running kinetic momentum, especially because it takes advantage of the repair skills on the other side of kinetic momentum. Definitely check that build out, and we're going to be doing comparison with Refactor for sure, because they solve very similar problems of healing and damage at the same time. But in any case, we're running glass because we're shooting, and the build setup is keeping us not tanky, but it's healing us, so it's giving us an opportunity to have more windows of damage. And we're going to be peeking, we're going to be shooting, we're going to be doing a lot more damage with our weapon as we're constantly shooting, and with glass cannon is increasing that. Kinetic momentum is not. So that's a decision that you can make, but I think glass cannon here is working really well to actually output more damage on the build as a whole than just looking at kinetic momentum increasing our skill damage. And again, kinetic momentum has to ramp up. It's very possible. You can't really test this, right? But take a look at your gameplay, how often your kinetic momentum's building up again. You will keep it up for a long time once your skills are out there, but glass cannon is always on. You don't need to do anything to proc it or stack it up, which I think is another really good use case for our total damage package here. Alright, now another thing I wanted to talk about here was the waveform. How could the waveform play into this? The waveform is not that good, to be honest. It makes sense on a drone turret build like this one, or if you're spamming both of the skills. So running waveform means that now to get that 4-piece gear set, we need to either swap out the chest or the backpack. Whichever one you're going to do, you're just not going to be reaching the heights of the same amount of damage of running both the talents. Waveform doesn't come with a brand bonus. Exotics don't have brand bonuses. You expect their talent to compensate for that. And alternating current gives you 30 on one skill, but not the other. So it averages out to 15% skill damage across the board. So it's essentially, picture this as you have 15% extra skill damage on your brand. Whereas the setup we have now, right, we're getting that 10% skill damage from the brand. Now you could run, we talk about Wyvern, you could run a Wyvern and then go with the chest from Refactor, right? But we're losing glass cannon, which is doing a lot of damage. Either glass or kinetic, right? It's going to be doing a lot of damage. And yeah, we're not getting perfect combined arms. We're getting regular combined arms with Wyvern. Is this really going to be pushing more damage? I tested it. It's not. We want the chest in the bag. Now, different use case if you want to run the chest of Refactor or the backpack of Refactor, right? If you're interested in these talents, they're not dead talents. They're actually very useful, and you're definitely going to be seeing me make a build that utilizes the chest and or the backpack. I've been loving this gear set, and that both of them are very powerful. The chest and the bag are very powerful choices. But, like I said, with Glassfactor, we're focusing on damage. We want to be maximizing our damage output and then taking advantage of the healing aspect of Refactor as a sort of secondary thing. We're pushing damage first. And for damage, we're running 100% with glass on the chest and then force multiplier on the backpack. The waveform is not going to cut it for pushing more damage than the setup that we have here. Alright, y'all, so that's everything I wanted to talk about with the pieces and how skill damage works and how to pick the right brands for your setup. This is how everything is synergizing together. You got to look at your build holistically and where all of your damage sources are coming from when you're deciding on what pieces you're going to slot in. Especially with a gear set, you only got 2 options outside of those 4. What are you going to take advantage of? This is how we're running Glassfactor, and definitely stay tuned for the other builds where you're going to see myself play on these variations and play on some of the ideas that you guys had in the comments to make entirely separate builds that are focused on different things and synergize in different ways. This one's all about damage. And if you want damage, this is the way to do it. No questions asked. Get this setup going, and you're going to see for yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one. Enjoy.